Okay.
Do you have a preferred curriculum to use to get around the lack of comments in JSON?
I don't. So can I actually don't know. I never actually thought about how you comment that.
Well, they specifically removed the feature on purpose,
Yeah.
but apparently there's like a weird hack.
And I don't think you can do a comment in Mongo. I mean, just in the general environment. But you could probably create a field called comment if you really wanted to. But it would only be within that one JSON object. I mean, so it'd be a comment on that one. Or you could create I suppose you could create a collection called comments.
I just meant like, because there's no way to comment out the language.
Right.
It's just really hard to make notes for yourself.
Right. Yeah, there's no way that I can think of to. All right. Are we ready? Okay. I know. Yeah. That's fine. Let's. This one won't require that you have the Mongo, and then what I'll do is I'll help you download it afterward because this won't take very long. I don't think. A few moments. Anyone else don't have Mongo? Oh, it doesn't have that. It's going to take a while. Thank you. So how'd your yesterday go? It was a bit weird here.
No classes till 9, so
What?
I weren't in classes until 9 time.
I know. Well, I got here at 8:30 because I have to leave home at 6, and they didn't send out their email that early. So I got here and the doors were closed, although they opened pretty early. They opened about 8:30, which is about when I got here. So they were opening just as I got here. But no classes. So I had only one class yesterday in the morning. And then I was supposed to observe somebody in the evening, and he called in sick. So I just really had nothing useful yesterday. I did a little bit of work in my office. Did you come by at all?
No,
No.
I sent you a message.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I left a bit early. I left you posted on my door, actually, I think.
Is the tower still up yesterday?
No, they said, and it didn't actually affect this room much, I don't think, but they said that the computers school-wide were not coming up properly. And I guess that's why they did it, but there's a lot of classes that don't have computers, so I'm not sure why they canceled everything because the computers wouldn't run.
Maybe the students in general, you hard to really get here if they're probably low.
It could be. But the only reason they gave me was just that their systems weren't coming back up. So, also the admin and registration, all those systems were not coming back up. So that might have been. Computers don't like hard crashes. So I think that was the issue. But it was a weird day yesterday anyway. Hopefully things will go more normal. We didn't miss anything. But one other thing I'm going to do, just a couple of quick announcements. So next week is Thanksgiving, right? We do have class on Wednesday. I will hold class on Wednesday, but I won't introduce anything new. If you need to leave early for Thanksgiving, you won't miss anything. But I will be here, and what I'll do is it'll be an open lab. So if you have any catching up to do, Wednesday would be a good day to work on things. If you're not leaving. And then we have like 2 weeks left after that. So we actually have plenty of time. If you're a little behind, it's nothing to panic about. And this Mongo stuff we can probably do in a week. Probably because of Thanksgiving, we'd finish it up first week of December or so. And then what we'll do if we're all done, I'll give time to finish things, but also just introduce things that we haven't talked about. I might talk about the security stuff some because we haven't really done anything with that. Just go over some more stuff, just for your information. Okay, is that enough announcements? I think so. So this assignment, this is like a planning, as I said, it's like doing the diagram that we did before the databases, except that it's very different way of planning. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to set up what we are going to then apply to Mongo next class, Monday. All right, so we're going to make kind of a list of collections, and then we'll make like some sample JSON files. You're not bound to these, but I just want you to start thinking about it. There's no required structure to a Mongo collection, but if you're going to have any use, you probably need some kind of general structure to follow. Collections are like tables again, except that they don't contain columns and rows. They contain JSON documents. Does that make sense? And what I want to do is kind of walk through this process, and then I'll show you what the actual assignment, the database that we're going to be working with. Is that okay? You guys are with me? I say that because I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I feel very sleepy this afternoon. It's typical. I usually, right about now, have a low sugar, low caffeine level. I'm not sure why. It is warm in here. All right. So what I'm going to do right now, and I'm just going to do Notepad. And to turn in for this assignment, what I would do is just do this in Notepad and then upload it. We will go over them on Monday, and then we'll actually put them into the database and put a few sample records in it. And then the next thing we'll do is I'll show you how to query. But today it's just kind of figuring out what we're going to do. I was thinking, do you guys want to do books, movies, or music for a sample database here? Movies? Yeah, I think we have done. All right, so we'll do movies. What would some of the collections be? Collections being like groupings of like tables. What do you think? I mean, we're not bound to this. This is just brainstorming. So you might have some, yeah, what do we want to call that? Movie type? What other kinds of collections might you have? I would think there would be one for the movie itself, right? You might, if directors matter to you. Some people, they matter a lot. Actors, probably. Anything else? What? Duration? I would probably put that under the movie, right? Some things would be like fields. These are like the big categories. What?
Year released.
Which again, I'd probably put under the movie.
Oh.
Those are things that we could put in there for sure.
The name of the movie.
What?
The name of the movie.
Again, under movie. Let's do movie then. So we've got these as one of the things. These are tables, but one of the things, I mean, they're collections. They're kind of like tables, but there's no relationships in Mongo or in the NoSQL database. As part of their structure, their NoSQL element. So there's no relationship. There's nothing that's going to tie these together, except you can create ties between them, but it's entirely up to you to maintain them, right? And you can't join tables in a query. You can't join collections. You can query one collection in another. So you could do a query of an actor here, and then make a query over here of all the movies that have that actor. That makes sense? But you have to do it as separate queries. There's no joining. So one of the things that they do in a NoSQL is that they tend to revel in redundancy, whereas in regular SQL structured databases, redundancy is an absolute evil. In NoSQL, they just tend to repeat things all over the place. There are all the dangers of that. So if you misspell something in one place, it may not find it when you're looking for it, right? Because it's spelled differently than the others. I mean, it has all of those dangers. But let's do movie real quickly. So do you guys remember we talked a little bit about what a JSON object is? You start with a curly brace, and it will end with a curly brace. And basically, it's going to involve, you guys remember at all?
Key and the value.
Yes, a key and a value. So one of the keys, and this one you can do or not do, and it should be lowercase. So if you do this, you have to provide the key value, and you have to keep them straight. It will cause an error if two records have the same key. So you could just let it provide the key value itself. They're like 15-digit numbers, but you could just let it do it itself if you want. So I'm just going to do like title, and hopefully they'll move away down out of the hall. What movie do you want? Any? We're just going to make a sample record. I'm going to show a couple of ways that you can do this. Step Brothers? All right, and then you do a comma. After each of these pairs, you do a comma. What else did we want? I heard year, whoops, I can't type, year released. I'm just going to say year. Is that this year?
2008.
2008. Numbers can be quoted or not quoted. But if you have text, particularly if there's any spaces or anything in it, it has to be quoted. Also, the key value, this part can be quoted or not. Again, if you do it as more than one word, it has to be quoted. That makes sense?
For key also.
What?
For key also it should be quoted. If that is more than one word.
Yes.
Oh.
Because otherwise it'll break. Spaces are like the end. If they're not inside of quotes, the space terminates that statement. Does that make sense? Although you can do, I wouldn't, but you could do this, and it would probably be happy. That kind of white space doesn't matter, but I wouldn't do that. The line breaks can matter for something, so particularly inside the string. If I were to do this, it would throw an error because it would see that as two strings. Does that make sense? This is just how many of you have done JavaScript? Yeah, several of you. This is just JavaScript. This is a JavaScript. It's called JavaScript object notation. Is that right? But real purists will complain that this is not a JavaScript object. All right, so let's do the actors, and this is where it'll get a little bit different. I'm just going to do actor, although there'll probably always be actors, and I'm going to do a square brackets here. What? I don't know, Step Brothers. Who's in it? C. Riley. And that should have a quote at the end. Is that how you spell Farrell?
Farrell.
Oh, E-L-L. Farrell, not Farrell. Two E's.
Sorry, no, F-E-R-R.
F-E-R-R. Okay. So do you guys know what the square brackets are doing there? It's setting up an array, right? This is absolutely a violation of first normal form in regular database, but here it's quite common. Just do an array of actors, so you can have this as long as possible. You can also have an array of objects inside of objects. I'll show that in a moment. I mean, it can get really complex. I might try, well, after we do this, I might show you what a Twitter JSON looks like, because it's like 7 pages long. Because everything you've ever done on Twitter seems to be sent with you with every tweet. So, yeah.
Are they just deduplicating on the hard drive at that point? It's usually wasteful. But...
Yeah, it's extremely wasteful. They don't care. And one of the things is you can distribute this across multiple hard drives. So, and this kind of database a few years back probably would have been prohibitively slow because of the duplication, but it's actually faster than relational databases now because processing power is so much better. And it's basically just handling text files. So, what else do we want about movies? Anything? I don't need to. I don't intend to build this all out. I just want to make an example of how things can look. Who is the director? Since we have directors here, anybody know? I have no idea.
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay. This way?
MC capital K A-Y.
Not that it matters for example, the things are spelled right, but. All right, so that's a real simple JSON record. And this is the way that the data is stored inside of a relational or non-relational database is in these little JSON objects. Again, they may not be little, they may be huge. That's a good thing. Questions on that? And the arrays are fairly common. I'm going to do a little bit more embedding in a moment. Yeah.
Does there need to be a space before the array or like a comma after?
There doesn't have to be. It won't throw an error if there's no space there. I'm trying, and this could all be on one line, right? The line breaks are for readability, and the indentation is for readability. Yeah.
I need to come after the bracket.
I do indeed. Thank you. There should be a comma after every element except the last one, right? And you don't need a space here, although again, it kind of ignores a lot of the white space, except if I were to break a string. I'm going to do, so we did, this could be a good example of a movie. Let's do actor. And I'm going to show a couple of things. We'll do a simple actor and then we'll do a more complicated one. The things that are going to drive you nuts with this are curly braces, right? And then also commas. And actually, those are the main things. Making sure the colons are in there. Make sure things are quoted. It's usually the punctuation. It's the little things that'll drive you crazy. And it can get more complicated than this, as I said. I'm going to, you can copy and paste these from Notepad. I think we did that last time. It's a whole lot easier to do that, or some kind of text editor, than it is to type it at the command line, although you can do that if you wish. Because you can, if you get an error, you can come back and correct it here. It's a lot harder to correct it in the command line. I still haven't come up with a list of command line shortcuts, but I'll try to. All right, so this is actor. So we'd probably want, now again, the ID is optional. There will always be an ID, but if you don't provide it, it will. Actor name. I'm going to underscore it. There's different ways you could do that. So let's do type. Anything else we want to know about the actor? I might add one other thing here, but I want to show it in a moment. I mean, just in general, facts or anything you would want to know.
On awards or something.
You could. Has Will Ferrell ever won an award?
Oh, what about, you said that you can't have a relationship between them, but what if you were interested in, I don't know, like an IMDb when it pulls up the different movies they've been in?
Right, and it probably does it something like this. So that was where I was going to go. I just thought maybe we'd want like Yearborn or something like that. Let's do, and awards might be good. I just can't think of any that Will Ferrell has won. So I'm going to say movies, or you could just say movie. It depends on if you want plural, singular, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to do a square bracket, but I'm also going to do, so I'm going to try to break this in ways. Can I move? I might have to press enter a few times. I just want to show you a possibility here. So I'm going to do a curly brace here. And I think just for space, I might do it in one line. But so let's do title. So we've got, this is the Step Brothers. And we had the year, right? So let's do year. That was 2004. 8. Okay. So I am going to close the curly brace there. If I can find it. All right, I'm actually going to drop this and tab it over a little bit, just trying to be real clear what's going on. I'll do a comma there. So do I know any? The only other one I can think of is Elf.
Anchorman?
Okay, let's do Elf and then Anchorman. I have no idea. Any idea? It doesn't have to be accurate. This is just for examples. Seems like it was a while ago. 2005.
2004.
2004. Huh.
Oh, we're doing outside.
Yeah, Elf. Any idea?
2003.
Okay. And then a comma, and then I'll do just the Anchorman. That'll be enough. I'm so used to camel case. Anchorman, I suppose, is 2 words. Or is it 1? That was 2004. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and close the bracket. And we'll call that a good thing. So what I wanted to show you there is that you can have arrays of objects. And I could have, this is redundant of what's in the movies, right? But as I said, they tend to revel in redundancy. This way, if you search an actor, this would be like the IMDb, right? It brings up, when you bring up the actor, bring up all the things. And if you got really complicated, you could have reviews, you know, for the actor, and you could have all sorts of other stuff. In fact, I would almost, but not sure, bet that IMDb is some kind of database like this. So, does it make sense? You can do that? Okay. One of the neat things, which I'll show you once we've entered some data into the databases and we start querying it, if I wanted to say, I just wanted to see, I knew that there was an Elf, I could search actors. And if I search for Elf, I could find Will Ferrell in this, or I could also find it by searching up here, except we don't have it there. But if we did in the movie list, right? There's lots of ways to search it, and it's very flexible. Can't join, right? There's no way to join things. So rather than join things, what they do is they tend to repeat information, so that you could still query one table and find that kind of information, one collection. So it depends on what you're doing, right? If what you're doing is like IMODB and you just want movie information, this is not a bad structure. It's actually very flexible, gives you a lot of power, you know. It's fairly easy to create. It's actually pretty easy to update. You just keep adding these objects in here. Although it is a bit weird because you have to update an object inside of an object, but it's doable. It's not that hard. If you're doing accounting, if you're doing some kind of business information, if what you need has to be accurate to the like particularly financially accurate, NoSQL databases are not very good. It can be done, but in order to do it, you have to maintain all of the rigorousness has to be in the software that you write to talk to it, right? And then the database at that point is just purely to store data. The other thing about these NoSQL databases, so far, historically, their security isn't that great. We might, as I said, if we have time, we might talk about security. The way you create a user here is you create a new table. It's just called DB, and it's the admin table, and you create JSON files to describe the users and their permissions. So it's all in plain text. So once you do that, and then you have to start like Mongo, you have to start it with authentication enabled, right? Which we're not. We're just starting it. So if somebody could stop it as a service and then just start it without enabling authentication, then they're
Is it log files, or if you just start a second instance, it'll do whatever you want?
You know, I don't know if you can do a second instance on the same server, same machine. That's actually a good question. I don't know. All right, so we've got actor and movie. So this is probably almost enough to show you the gist of it. Does that make sense to you? Let me show you a couple of other things, and then if we need to, we can come back. And this is kind of what I'm looking for the assignment. It's just a notepad, and I'm going to show you the database we're working with in a moment. That lists what you think the collections would be and gives just a sample of what you think the structure of the JSON would be. Because it's good to think about it a little bit, even though you can do things on the fly. Agile programmers love NoSQL because you can put a NoSQL database together in even with a little thought in a few days, right? Whereas a relational database usually takes weeks to structure. We did it really fast, and I was really loose on the structures for you guys. All right, so let's go to look at the actual assignment, and then I might show you a couple other things, and then we'll call it good. So this is the assignment, right? Just to basically do this. But let's look at, I'm going into the modules. Theoretically, there it goes. So down in the MongoDB, there's a show tracker PDF. And this is basically the database that we're going to do as a NoSQL database. So the idea is to track music shows that occur in the clubs around town. Somebody told me in the last class that I guess this actually exists. There's an app that does this, Your Band or something like that. It'll tell you when a band that you want is coming to town and think, what? Bands in town, that's right. I've never saw it, but it sounds like it does exactly what this app is supposed to do. So it's basically to track the music around town, the venues, where the music is played, and you know what basically what shows there are and what artists. So when it gets down here, it should track all the venues, and by venues I just mean where the show takes place. It could be the Jazz Alley, it could be the Paramount, it could be, I don't know the bars that do it anymore. I used to.
Nemos.
Nemo's, yeah, that's not too far away. Comet used to. Um,
Triple door.
Triple O, yeah, there's lots of them. Anyway, so just places like that. And again, you don't have to be real thorough. Uh, so you should have information about the venue, the shows, the times, you know, dates for the shows, what artists are at the shows, any age restrictions. You know, like a lot of the bars, you can't go in unless you're 21. So it would be good if a user could search by venue. Now, you guys haven't experienced searches for this, but basically you can search for anything you have a field for. Does that make sense? It's true in relational databases too. If you want to search for something, there has to be a field for it, right, that's containing that information. So it's a pretty flexible search. It's a very weird search compared to the SQL that we'll look at. It's all the searches are in JavaScript as well. So be able to search by date, by artist, by type of music. So that would be putting the genres in there. A user should be able to register and get announcements of the show with the artist they want to follow. One thing about the announcements, it doesn't have to be any way, you don't have to put anything about announcements in the database. There's something you would do with a query. So you would probably periodically, like daily or whatever, run a set of queries for the different users. And if there's a band they're interested in, then your software would send off a notification. It wouldn't be the database itself. Does that make sense? But you do want to track your users. These don't really matter too much for what we're doing. Basically, users should be able to register and list the artists they want to follow. Right? So there'd be like an array of artists or something in there. Does that make sense? That's the database that you want to create the collections for. Remember, collections are just like tables, except looser in structure. And then just a sample JSON for it, being kind of like what we did just now in Notepad. And you're not bound to it. We'll talk about it on Monday. And on Monday, we'll actually put it in Mongo. Right? And we'll get Mongo downloaded for you. Yeah.
So you just want exactly this,
but for the show tracker, yeah. And then just as a side thing, I don't know if I can find it real quickly. I just wanted to show you. JSON is everywhere, by the way, not just in Mongo or NoSQL databases. JSON is, and JavaScript are taking over the world. So the Node allows you to run JavaScript on the server side. It used to be only on the web client side. Basically, you can program anything in JavaScript now. I don't like JavaScript, but that's a personal taste thing. Yeah.
How much data do you want in there?
When we do it, I was thinking like what we did before, 2 or 3 rows in each collection, 2 or 3 objects in each collection. But you don't have to enter that now. I mean, right now I'm just looking for the notepad. Does that answer or no? You look like you're still.
Yeah, I mean, so we just, what we filled out in the notepad, that's all we need to turn in.
That's all you need to turn in now. Yeah, and then on Monday, what we'll do is I'll show you how to create the collections, how to populate the collections. And then probably the Monday after, because I'm not going to do anything on Wednesday of Thanksgiving except open lab, just in case people are going places. And it's a time to catch up if you need. Probably the Monday after that, I'll show you how to query. And then we'll basically be done. So the time that's left, I'll spend just covering other topics. Does that make sense? Just for information.
what's a final?
There isn't really a final.
Oh.
So that's actually another thing. During finals week, So there are those quizzes at the end of each module, and then there are the projects and the assignments. That's it, basically.
So we have anything to do then?
So during finals week, which it's not a whole week. I think it's from like Wednesday to Friday. We never meet then anyway. I mean, on Friday. That Wednesday of finals week, which I think is basically I will be here, but there's no new stuff. So it's a time to finish and help me. I'll help you catch up if you're behind. Make sure you can finish. So finals week, in fact, finals week, Thursday too, even though it's not like regular class time. I'll just hang out here quite a bit of the day. Except when the only times that would not be true is if some other class has a final in here. Does that make sense? So if you're not done by then, what?
This room is going to be open even more on finals week.
Well, I'll probably hang out here except when somebody else is having a final. Not all day, but probably from about 10 till 2 or 3, depending on who's here. If nobody's here, I will probably take off. Or I'll get somebody to stay here, and then I'll come check every once in a while. So what was I going to show you? Oh, I wanted to show, let's see if I can do, maybe I want the example. This is the JSON from a Twitter feed. That's actually smaller than some that I've seen. And this would go into like a NoSQL database too, I think. There's a Python, little tiny Python program. You can write this great Twitter feeds and just, you choose what topics you're looking for and it'll just copy all the live information to your database. You can make a really huge database very quickly. But I mean, so you can see, I'm not expecting you to write anything quite so long. So right at the top, you have the text, which is what shows up on the screen. All the rest is just metadata. So if you, in order to get this and to write it, you have to sign up as a developer. It's free, but you have to sign up. But it tells you how many friends you've got, whether your account's protected, where you live, time zone, where your picture is. Lots of different things there. Nothing is ever private. All right, so that's not really relevant. I just thought I'd show you that. And you'll see that data in general is being and it does have object inside of objects, right? Retweeted status is an object inside of that, and actually it has an object inside of an object inside of an object there. Lots of embedding. The user is an object.
Is that all automatically populated?
Yeah, I mean, nobody writes this by hand. The first time when you're writing the program, you have to write it by hand, but what you do is you generate it from code in real time. So every tweet would have this basic structure. And basically, if they're, like a lot of these have null values, so basically anything that doesn't have a value at that moment would be null, right? But it would put out all those fields. Generally, JSON and XML are auto-generated by computers and are read by computers. And humans interact with them as little as possible. So All right, so I'm gonna post this right now, and I just did a video. I don't know if that's very useful, but I'll post it also, and then I'll come around and help with things. There also, just to, so I'm gonna stop the broadcast.